Here with Chris Pronger, Hall of Famer, author.
Yes.
How's it feel to be an author?
Soon to be. This is one of the few that are out in the wild. But yeah, excited for the book to officially release and get in the hands of those that are buying it.
Yeah, let's start with our centerpiece on the table here. Earned, your new book coming out. What do people need to know about the stories you tell and what you've put into this novel?
Yeah, I talk about the book as a part memoir, part life lessons learned from my youth hockey days, all the way up through my NHL career, and then post-playing days. It's a playbook of sorts for people that want to level up, people want to challenge themselves, and people that want to be difference makers, whether it be personally or professionally.
Not all people are Hockey Hall of Famers, and not everyone's Stanley Cup champions. Not everyone can necessarily relate to professional athletes. How do you navigate the line of being a professional athlete, but relating to everyday people that just want to level up, whether it be in business, in family, in athletic endeavors, whatever the case may be?
Yeah, well, that was a short window of my life, and then there was obviously the pre and now the post. And I think we're always trying to reimagine ourselves and find ourselves in whatever new environment we're in. And I've had to do it a few times here since retiring, and it's been a lot of fun. And writing the book, I really got to take a really introspective look into not only my career but my life, the good and the bad. Peel back the onion layers and kind of walk people through my journey. And hopefully it resonates with them. It makes a lot of impact with them, and they're challenged enough that they're willing to make the change necessary to try to get to the top.
Of course, people are going to read the book, but if you just had a quick synopsis of what people can do, the first step they can do if they really want to just level up, what would your advice be?
Set standards, and secondly, take accountability, take ownership of your life, of your direction, and then each step of the way, bet on yourself, challenge yourself, and put in the work.
When you were a kid and had dreams of being in the NHL and had dreams of having a really good athletic career, did you ever think that it would bring you this much wealth of knowledge and this much perspective where you could help other people on the other side of an athletic career?
Yeah, I don't know if I certainly didn't get into it because of that. But I think as I started to build up my speaking platform a couple years ago and really started to kind of dive into that and research, as I started writing my speeches, research experiences, career, wins and losses, good and bad, to try to make an impact with those people that I'm talking to. And as I started to do that, it really started to see a framework for this book and something that could really help people, better themselves.
At what point in your career, was it in your career or post-career, when it comes to playing hockey, did it click for you, like, I can really actually help other people with all these experiences that I've had?
I had been asked, every year since retiring, and even towards the latter part of my career, to go speak at different events. And I might go to maybe one a year or two a year, and you tell some stories, you have some laughs. It's, there's no real structure or ideology behind what you're trying to do, what impact you want to have on the people that are there in attendance. And I think now, as I've taken a more genuine approach and intentional approach to building up my speeches and what impact I want people to walk away from those talks with, that's really helped me kind of dig through and parse through my life and experiences and pick the ones that I think are really germane to the people in the crowd and how that may resonate with them.
When you look at athletics and sports and what the critical part they've played in your life, you talked about the pre-sport, the pre being an athlete, and the post being an athlete. When you look at families or young kids that are looking into getting into athletics and you talk to parents, what does sport really mean to you and how it kind of shaped who you are today and just the wealth of knowledge that you've gained from just playing hockey?
Yeah, let me get on my soapbox.
Yeah.
Sports at the end of the day are supposed to be about fun. We need to have fun, socialize, learn how to be good teammates. And then from there, it's about competition. It's about being driven. These little things that we can learn from sports translate into life, translate into business and all the rest of that stuff. And there's a reason why Fortune 500 companies are so intent on hiring athletes. It's because they know how to work together, they know how to find solutions, and they have an incredible work ethic.
All right. Where can people get this? When can they get this? If people want to get involved, how do they get involved in reading this book?
This book is on Amazon.com. It's at Barnes & Noble. if you go to chrispronger.com, there's a book page, there's an events page. I'm doing some book signings throughout St. Louis area. I'm doing an event at the Blues game on the 14th. I have another event planned on the 15th. If you want to check that out, that's on the events page. And then I'm also doing a couple book signings at Barnes & Noble, Leduc Crossing in West County.
Is it pre-order right now, or are they out there?
Pre-order right now. April 14th officially releases, and it'll be in your hot little hands soon after that.
Awesome. I can't let you get out of here without talking a little NHL.
All right.
Because, we're a Blues city and an NHL city. When you look at this Blues team, what they've done post-Olympic break and where they're at as they make a playoff push if they are going to make the playoffs, because it's not looking so great as of now, but also where they were before the Olympic break. To you, what's been the biggest difference post-February to pre-February?
I think post-Olympic break, it's the fact that they're healthy. Yes, they made a couple changes, brought in some younger players, that youthful enthusiasm, but also I think their top guys, Snuggerud's healthy, who they were looking at to play an integral part of their offense. Holloway's healthy. He drives the play. He's a driver. Thomas has been healthy. So you look, that's that first line that's been lights out here since the break. You got Dvorsky coming onto the scene. You have some of the back end. Broberg has taken that next step. Logan Mailloux has now kind of started to continue to develop and hold his own. Theo Lindstein has now been brought in. So you look at their back end, and they're slotting in some younger guys that are mobile, that can move the puck. I think their transition game has been excellent since the All-Star or the Olympic break. So in that and their goaltending has been phenomenal. If you look at Joel Hofer's numbers, I think since around American Thanksgiving, I think he's number one in the league in almost every category. And Jordan Binnington, since the Olympic break, has been great as well. So when your goaltenders are stopping the puck, your defense is playing really well, and they're mobile, so they're able to gap up and really hold the blue line and force turnovers and things of that nature. And then up front, they're getting timely goal scoring. That's a recipe for success.
I was listening to an interview with Tom Stillman, and he said maybe some people before the season, he's like, when I was listening around, some people on the outside looking in were a bit too excited about what this team could potentially do because of how great they were about a year ago. When you look at this team and not making the playoffs this year, if that's the case, that ends up happening through the last handful of games, is that a disappointment for this franchise, or do you think this is a good building block for what they can be?
I think it's always a disappointment. You want to make the playoffs, but I think when you look at the core of this team, the youth, Jake Neighbors, we didn't mention. You go through the list of players that they have. There's a lot to be excited about. And to go on the run they went on last year to make the playoffs, you're not doing that every single year. They tried to this year again. They lost a couple heartbreakers to LA and San Jose, which kind of derailed their playoff hopes. But, I think with everything that's transpired this year, I think they've gained a lot of valuable experience. And looking for bigger things next year.
In the St. Louis area, we focus so much on the Blues, but I know you have a good pulse on the entire league. As we get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, what team, who excites you as we head into the playoffs here in a couple weeks?
I would say this year, I don't know if there's a favorite. I know Colorado has run away with the President's Trophy, and they seem to be the odds-on favorite. I'm not certain. I think in years past, the West has beaten itself up and the East has been the recipient of that. I think this year the East is going to beat itself up, and I think the winner's going to come out of the West. I'm not sure who, but I think it's the West this year to win the Cup.
Well, looking forward to it, and looking forward to getting my hands on one of these books here in just a matter of days before it releases on April 14th. Chris Pronger, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.